It's an interview with me, basically, which is Noel. Okay, so my name is Noel Quinn. I've been in the film business in sound since 1967. I started in 66 as a projectionist in the Adelphi Cinema in Dublin. I was told about a job going out in Ardmore Studios. I'm very lucky in that way. Then I was asked what age I was. I was 17 at the time, and the lecturer said, "Now you're too young." But I went out anyhow. And when I got out there, John Hewson, they were making a film. John Hewson, Simple Davy, I think was the name of it. And the head of the sound department, when I got out there, said, "Look, I'm really sorry." He said, "I have to go to a meeting, production meeting. Paddy here will show you what you're doing, who is a projectionist out there." So Paddy brought me into the dubbing suite and showed me a mechanical boom and said, "This is what you'll be doing if you get the job." So I actually got up to use it. And while I was up on it, Tommy came back from the meeting, came through the door and just said, "Oh, that's what I like. You've got the job. When can you start?" Okay, what a boom op? What's a boom operator, or what's a sound recordist even at that on a film set? Well, let's look at the film crew on a film set. What are we responsible for? We're responsible on recording sound, which happens to be the dialogue in front of the lens. So if we have 2 actors, 3 actors, 4 actors, etc., etc., they're playing out a scene in front of the lens. So what we've got to do is be able to capture that sound. We need 2 people to capture it. We need 1 person to record it. And we need 1 person to basically have a mic on a rod, a pole, fish pole, whatever you want to call it, that would be over their heads and just outside of the frame line and moving to each individual as they speak. What you have to do and take into consideration, needless to say, of course, is you've got to know the dialogue because the mic has to be in the right place. You've also got to take into consideration who's closer to the lens, who's further away from the lens, because the person closer to the lens have to be always on mic. You can't afford to be loose on him or her at any stage. And we'll, as I said, try and get the mic in there, try and make it work. Now, basically, I've worked all aspects of sound, mostly in film. Sound post-production I've worked in, track laying, dubbing mixing, right, for short periods of time for various productions, mostly audio, as I said, for film. I ran a music studio for a year. It wasn't really my forte. That's worked in RTE in their TV studio. I also worked in their outside broadcasts. And now basically for the last, since 75, I started lecturing in 75 as well as working on films. And I worked permanently in a film school for 5 years and then left. And for the next 11 years in Australia, I worked on films and lectured. Came back here, done more or less the same thing. Started doing a bit of lecturing here in Dún Laoghaire and start working on films. So I get a script, let's say, and I read a script, okay? So during the script, I go through it and I'd mark up certain things, then go back and try and figure out why did I put these marks there. Basically, we'll take some technical problems on the set, will we, insofar as that little things that can cause us problems on the set from a sound point of view. I'm going to start with the scene where we're bringing in messages to the kitchen. And what happens is that they decided to use a paper bag. Now, I don't know if you actually listen to a paper bag as you're trying to take those messages out, it's really loud and very, very crisp. So that can cause us lots and lots of problems from a sound point of view. So we would ask, is it possible that we could have a cloth bag to solve that problem? We'll talk about the doors of people entering and exiting. And what happens is sometimes you've got a dialogue sequence as somebody comes through a door. Sometimes you'll find that the first time they do it, they actually come through the door. So they're opening the door as they're speaking and they slam the door and they're still speaking, which creates a tremendous amount of problems later in the track. So what we'll ask for or what we request is that could you either say the line before you open the door or open the door first, pause, then say it, close the door, pause, then say your line. So all the time we're trying to get rid of these noises. It's like in putting down a cup, if you have a cup of tea. Don't put it down over your line or over anybody else's line. Put the cup down in a gap so we don't hear it. Now what happens is on pre-production, there's lots of meetings going on. You've got lots of questions. I've sat down and I've spoke to the director. He or she, they've nominated what they're going to do. Maybe they'd like to use 2 cameras. So how are we going to use two cameras? We would love it to be in a situation where we could use either two close-ups or a medium shot and a close-up. We can deal with that. But when they come and say, "Oh, I'd love to do a wide shot and a tight shot," we're really into trouble now. How are we going to cover the dialogue? Because there's one shot is fairly close to the face, and there's one very wide, and it keeps our microphone way out there. So sometimes you just have to get in, have a chat to the director, be a little assertive, and just say, "Look, we can do this, this, and this." We also talk about what are people wearing. And this is again is in pre-production. What are we actually looking at? What are they wearing? Oh God, that's a worry. That dress, especially period piece, because a lot of the dresses are very stiff and they're very noisy. And in some cases, I even on going back only a couple of years ago, let's say to Tudors. I was doing some second unit stuff, and the dress was louder than the actress was, so that was becoming a nightmare. And you're supposed to try and make this work, you know what I mean, and be diplomatic about it at the same time. The other thing on pre-production is we go out on location recce's. So all heads of department normally would go out and we go out and do a recce and have a look at locations, because the locations person is suggested to the director, these are some of the locations that you might be interested in. You can imagine some locations but really you feel like taking the locations person around the corner and doing a little job on them. And that could be either one of the crew. So we have a look at the location and we have a chat about it. So where's our problems? What sort of problems have we got? What do we need to do in this? Mine might be, okay, well, we're shooting in this particular building. It just happens to be a university in one of the rooms. I need all the air conditioning switched off or cooling system, depending on whether it's winter or summer. I need to have control in the corridors for people wandering up and down, because there's going to be breaks throughout the day. Is there any traffic outside or car parks outside? We're going to need somebody to stop traffic moving in when we're shooting. So that's my end of story. When I started in the industry, I was trained on a mechanical boom. So we used to take this out on location. And needless to say, after my second film, I thought I knew it all. You know what I mean? This is it. Now, I'm a boom operator, so I'm operating the mic. Somebody else is recording. So I had learned the art of, with this mechanical boom, that if you racked it out, so you'd wind it out and push the back end at the same time, the inertia would drive out what they call the trombone inside really quickly. So you get to one side of the set to the other. No problem. So I'm doing a sequence in Line of Winter with Catherine Hepburn and Peter O'Toole. And Catherine Hepburn's standing beside the mirror and I'm on Peter O'Toole. Catherine Hepburn's about to come up with a line. So I flip it, do my thing. And I lost control of it, and I hit an antique mirror that she was standing in front, which collapsed in front of her. She wasn't hurt, thanks to God. But that's one embarrassing moment. The second embarrassing moment was Gene Wilder and Margot Kidder, where now the mechanical boom, the platform could go quite high. So the platform was probably about 6 foot height. I got down to talk to the recordist, because there's always a lot of communication at all times between us. Can we do something better? Do we need to put the mic in a different position, etc., etc.? And I popped down, had a chat to them in the middle of a take, in the middle of a shooting, and all of a sudden they call for a take. We're still talking, and then they say roll. So as they said roll, I jumped to get up on the platform and ripped my trousers from back to front. And the two of them, Gene Wilder and Margot Kidder, are lying in bed, and I was so embarrassed to stand there. The director wouldn't cut. We just went for it. That was it. Another one, I befriended in Italy. I was doing a film, Nora, and I befriended two down and outs. I had passed by them earlier on. I was taking out a cigarette. I offered them a cigarette. Next time I saw them, I offered another cigarette. They're offering me a bottle of whatever. I don't know what it was, but and we talked a little. They had talked about the Irish playing in Italy, and there was that little bit of banter going on when I had a bit of a chance. 3 o'clock in the morning, we're doing a long tracking shot, and I'm on a boom, and I'm going to track with the boom, and these two lads arrive up behind me, hang out on my shoulders, and trying to give me a bottle, and my hands are up in the air. I just not like it. Director won't cut. She is breaking her heart laughing across the way, trying to give me that. So there's that. There's one of Michael Collins. The communication bit again with the recordist. Recordist wasn't in the room. It's a meeting between all the lads. They're down. It's Devilier, the whole lot, the whole group are downstairs in the basement at a big, huge table. And there's dialogue all over the table. So there's lots of work, but there's also lots of communication between me and the recordist, because we're trying to make this all work on one mic. The stills guy standing beside me, and I said, you know what I mean, Tom, would you mind holding this? So Tom took the pole, which is full length. So we're basically looking at 15 foot. And I ran out, came running back, right? and I wanted to speak to the camera person who's beside Tom. And I hit it, but I hit the pole on the way back. He thought I actually took the pole and let it go. So it goes right down the middle of the table, lands right down between them. I don't know how it didn't hit anyone. But so both of us were really embarrassed about that. So it's something that remains there.